Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Shadow of the Erdtree. This time I've got a quick little list of early secrets and details that are worth knowing, the type of stuff that could be very impactful, so say your build, a way to pile on new sorceries, incants, maybe you're playing with the ranged weapons and so on. I'll also throw in some extra tips and locations and details as we go, but let's just get started. First up, I'm standing in this location for a very important reason. This is just a quick PSA. I've mentioned in a recent video, but I realize in a video of this nature it definitely needs to be here. I'm standing in the Scadutree region, and I'm standing at the entrance of the Shadowkeep, a legacy dungeon. Without any major spoilers, basically, coming here and standing around where I am right now, essentially in the entrance of the gate to the Shadowkeep, is a bad idea if you do not want to progress the NPC storylines. To describe it, I would say as you begin the DLC, you are starting in phase 1 with your NPCs. They're all in their initial locations for you to find and engage with, and maybe even a couple of them or a few of them have things you can progress or interact with. Most of them are waiting to go into phase 2 for the next stage of things. But if you don't find them before you send them to phase 2, you could miss something. You might not be ready to progress them. So when you step here in front of the Shadowkeep, something happens that progresses the world state and sends the NPCs into phase 2. For example, there was 2 NPCs standing at the free path cross originally, and now there's no one. So this PSA warning is to give you the awareness that if you step in front of the Shadowkeep, an event will occur and the NPCs will go into phase 2 and progress. If you're not ready for that, you don't want that, then make sure you don't stand here or come here specifically. But now you know, so at least you can make that choice. Okay, so next up, I'm standing down in the Cerulean coast wearing a full new armor set, 2 new weapons, and even I have a new tool which allows me for a very cheap amount of FP to do a shotgun blast and pretty wide-reaching AoE of fire. So if you're not using a fire build, having access to on-demand fire for cheap FP can be incredible. Take the finger enemies or a variety of enemies that are very weak to fire in particular. It can be a lifesaver to have something like this, and it's located here in a place that I entirely missed myself originally. There is a secret island here, and the only name we have for it is the Southern Nameless Mausoleum. To get here, the nearest grace is the Cerulean Coast West Grace. So from the grace, head southeast just below where this tree on the map is, and there's kind of a little lip here to show that it leads down, which is where I'm standing. And as you can see, we've got a cave entrance and a secret passageway. When you drop down here, you're actually presented with multiple choices. By heading to your east, you'll actually follow the underground section and come out on one of these massive coffins with an item of value to go grab. This is for summon upgrades, which is nice to have. But if you instead go the other way, to the west, you'll find your way leading all the way around to the island. So we exit the cave where you're going to encounter a very friendly crab, a little bit too friendly, where we can immediately climb up this hill, which is the smaller hill of the two, and you're going to find this body right here. This is the location of the perfumed oil of Rana, which is that tool which we can do to infinitely use for a small amount of FP to send out those fire waves I mentioned. Next is the actual mausoleum itself at the top of the island. So if you go over there and head down, you're gonna encounter the Red Dancer boss fight, which when you overcome, you're gonna get the weapon and the armor set. The weapon is the dancing blade of Rana and allows you to do that unending dance as you spam L2 over and over. It's a duo curved sword set, so you get the offhand one just by picking it up. And it scales at a B grade with dex to start with, though I imagine that'll get better as you upgrade it. The armor set's interesting though. Enhances the power of dancing attacks. So by wearing this armor set, you enhance the unique moveset of the dancing blade of Rana. In any case, I was wondering how to get here, I missed it and eventually found it, and that's definitely an early game secret. Next up, how about another pretty important detail to know, is the fact that Dragon Communion is back with new dragon incantations that you can unlock. However, it's going to require you reach this location, which is officially called the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion. Here you'll also find a new NPC, the Dragon Communion Priestess, which is essentially a middle ground between human and dragon. She is wearing the dragon form of Elden Ring, which is finally here, rather than those temporary transformations we see when you use the dragon incants, actually turning into a midway dragon human thing. There's been a thing in the series for a long time, but just wasn't an option in Elden Ring. Not until now. So this NPC is tied to that storyline, and you will need to find her and complete it. The important thing to know about this NPC is that she's here initially, but as you progress this southeastern section and then fight the main boss of the area, whose name begins with B, she will leave if you go there before actually meeting her. So if you want the dragon form, it's pretty important that you do it in the right order and come here first. A very short guide to get here starts at the castle front in the first region. You follow the main path leading uphill until you come to this grace, the Pillar Path Waypoint. That's where you'll meet Igon or Egon. Progress through this valley and eventually you'll come to a cave entrance called the Dragon's Pit. it. Progress the cave and defeat the boss there, and on the other side of the boss room is this grace, the Dragon Pit Terminus, which then brings you to this region for the first time. Then we can head on east to where there's this kind of pond and head south instead of east to bring ourselves to the altar that I'm standing at right now. At the altar itself, you'll see there's two options. There's communion with bayle, which channels some very potent new dragon incantations, but there's also ritual of dragon communion as the more standard dragon communion unlocking. Here we can get the ghost flame breath tied to those new ghost flame dragons we're fighting around the world. It's pretty standard, this one. You're just going to need 3 dragon hearts. While not confirmed, it is possible we'll find more dragon incantations after killing specific or named dragons. We're going to have to see on that one. I know of at least one more named dragon that's not the big boss here, so it is potential that we'll get some more incantations. In any case, it exists, it's here, that's how you get to it, and the NPC in her storyline is here that you must begin before progressing the main boss of this region. So now you know. Moving on, I mentioned at the start that there's a new talisman which will be greatly impactful for ranged players, whether you're using a bow or a crossbow. We're talking about this talisman here, the Arrow's Soaring Sting Talisman. As you can see, it increases the effective range of bows, but also raises attack power of both arrows and bolts. That's both kinds. So whether you're using a bow or maybe one of the many new crossbows, this is going to be a meta talisman for any build relying on either of those. Whether you're doing a challenge run with a bow or working in some surprise pressure in PvP, I do think this talisman is going to greatly increase the output, so I think it's well worth knowing about. To get it though, you're going to need to come here. Just below me is an area called the Fog Rift Fort, which is surprisingly not part of Castle Ensis like I initially thought it would be when I first came here. To show you on the map, the nearest grace is Scadu Altus West, which you can just come to following the curve around, and you're going to need to drop onto this location and come around the wall to the actual main tower. To do that, you need to be a little bit careful because it's a pretty big drop, as you can see. And you just come to the edge here and roll down, heading kind of northwest. Again, the next platform is still northwest. It's not too big of a drop, don't be worried. And then we're going to roll to our east instead, dropping onto the final platform, which brings us to the wall that we begin with. You'll also find there's a Marika statue here, so if everything goes wrong, you can just respawn there. The thing you want to be aware about in the Fog Rift Fort is that there's explosive barrels everywhere. I'm using a mix of physical and fire weapon, so if I were to strike this barrel, I would die. So if you have any fire, range attacks, fire arrows, pull out a bow for that purpose, I would recommend it because it makes this area so much easier. In any case, just follow the wall south and cross this bridge and you'll eventually be attacked by a knight mini boss. The location of the talisman I actually missed originally, and that's why it's in this video, is because it's hidden here around this corner. When you drop down here, there's a secret little back passage that leads around to a ladder that will bring us to the top of the tower. So here's the ladder, let's climb it up, and now we're at the top. There is another ladder. At the top of that, we have a chest that contains the talisman, and it's as easy as that, but it's something that I very much missed, even though I found the Rift Fort myself and searched high and low, going to the lower areas, and there are a few items in this zone, but that talisman, it took me a while to find. Lastly for the video, a very important NPC that's going to trade you new sorcery options, which connects to another NPC that leads to a new summon or weapon reward. There's also an optional major boss hidden here within the questline, and the area itself rewards a bunch of items and rewards too. This area is important. It's called the Church District. From here, you can also enter a new entrance to the Shadow Keep, leading to entirely new hidden zones and a ton of items and NPCs. So let's cover how you reach this area. It actually begins here at the Morth Ruins Grace, right next to the Miquella Cross. The Morth Ruins is where you're going to begin. As you progress through this area, you're going to go through an underground passage that brings you to the Bonnie Village. To enter that area though on the Morth Ruins, you need to come to the northeastern point where there's a secret passage. So here we are, roughly where I threw that marker. We can see that there's the kind of caving in building. Just on the left here, very sneakily, it kind of leans down on this balcony where we can carefully drop down onto this ledge just below. We can hop over onto this balcony. I'll just pull out a torch so it's a lot easier for you to see. And that allows us to go into this building and work our way down safely. There will be some enemies down here, so just be aware of that. But it mostly just leads down and down until we come out the other side. The way that you need to go will be lit up by these lights that unfortunately really look like there's an item to pick up. But follow those lights and you'll come to this ladder and climb out. This will bring you to the Bonnie Village, which has a few enemies and even a weapon. That weapon is the Bonnie Butchering Knife, if you are interested. Also, while you're here, you could cross the bridge to the south to find a new dungeon. Or you could go to this north section where there's a gesture called Oh Mother, and that's very important, so I'd strongly recommend it. To progress next though, we're going to cross the Bonnie Village and then cross these bridges here. On the way, you're going to find this hut called the Whipping Hut. That is because it has the very horrible tooth whip item if you're interested in whips. But cross the next bridge and you'll find the next grace, the bridge leading to the village. As we continue up this hill, up this main path, you will encounter a furnace golem as a heads up if you are hunting those. But all the way to the north, we have the next one, the Church District High Road. At this location, you'll notice a suspicious looking tower. It's got a very straightforward puzzle within it, and the reward for that, if you're interested, is the Rabath's Cannon, which is basically just a ballista, but it has a magic element that locks onto targets. It's pretty cool. From here, you could also go northwest and enter the Shadow Keep from a new location. There's a whole new area you can discover and explore here. Or you can make your way south to the actual cathedral, where we have a storyline with a very important NPC and another NPC standing on the right here by this pillar. By following through that storyline, you will progress the main NPC, who is a sorcerer who teaches you new sorceries. As you get to part 2 and 3 and so on, he offers you multiple new spells that you can purchase from him via a vending kind of tool. Also through the NPC storyline with that, there is a major boss fight I will not show you, summons, and even multiple weapon rewards. But there you have it, a little overview of some of the more hidden locations and why they're worth knowing about, as well as the warning at the start. If you guys have anything useful or something that would fit into a video like this, maybe drop it in the comments, you might help someone. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thank you for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.